I'm going to tell you about the food processor. Now, the food processors at school are slightly different than this one. They're an awful lot smaller, but just by looking at the one that I have at home, you'll get the idea. So, on my one, I have the controls just here on the side, as a 0, a 1 and a 2, and a P meaning pulse. Now, pulse means that you can actually press the button to one side and it just goes in short, sharp movements, whereas the 1 and the 2, you can actually lock it into place and therefore you're able to walk away. I have a bowl, obviously has a handle. It has this thing here called the feed tube, and it has this thing here called the food pusher, which is quite crucial, and I'll show you why in just a moment. The lid comes off, and it should come off with a click. The bowl also comes off. I also have an extra little bit on mine that we don't have at school. But you can see here then we've got a spindle. How it actually works is that there is a fan belt inside which drives this, which turns round, which makes the blades go round. I've also got this little bit here, which is where the bowl locks into place so that the food processor can be used safely. So it's actually called a safety locking switch. And when you're then going to use the processor, the idea is you put the bowl on, click it into place, you add into it your blades. I'll put mine in just a moment. You get the lid. Now on here then, there is an extra bit of plastic on all of them, which locks into the side of the machine. So in order for it to work, you should be able to hear it click now into place. The handle and this thing called the food pusher are always in alignment. Okay, so there's no point trying to force it on round here and saying, oh well, I've got the lid on, the lid fits. We can see that the lid's on, but the lid isn't clicked on. Okay, it's not switched, not got the safety lock on it. And obviously if this is going to work and it's going to have a blade going around at speed, you want to actually have it locked into place properly. So adding in the blades then, what I have for mine is the same as I have at school. We have a large steel chopping blade. Okay. I also have for mine 2 other blades. I don't have as many as we have at school. One of them is very fine holes as a grater, and one is a fine slicer. And this one is a larger holes and a larger slicer. And mine quite cleverly just flips round according to what it is that you want to do. So I'm just going to put mine in like that. It clicks onto that central spindle that I had. On would go my lid, and then into it I would feed my food. Okay. Now the idea is that when you're grating something like a carrot, you don't want to have your fingers anywhere near, so your carrot would go in there, the food pusher would go down there, and you'd simply push it down, and therefore your fingers are protected from the very sharp blade that's underneath it. How to use it safely then? The idea is, as with all equipment, that you don't use them with wet hands, that you plug it in when you're ready. Okay, at the moment I haven't got mine plugged in, but you plug it in when you're ready to use it. And that you make sure that you take care of these sharp blades when you're washing, because you don't want to cut yourself in the sink. And more than anything, that you make sure that this safety locking switch is engaged, and that you always use the food pusher. Even if you're using the blade right down at the bottom to crush some biscuits to make a cheesecake, it's still really important that you have this in place. Okay, it also stops any bits and pieces from flying out. Cost wise, this will be almost, I would think, in the region of £100. It actually also has a separate section which you can get on them, where you can add a food blender to make smoothies and things. The smaller ones you can still get for about £50, and the smaller ones actually are incredibly good. So that's how to use the food processor safely. Going on then to the food mixer. This is in fact the same as the one we have at school. It's very, very straightforward to use. It has a button on the top here, which is the eject button. That spits out the whisks or the blade, and it has speeds on the top. Again, it has this P, the pulse bit, where you can just move your finger and have it on just for a moment or two, or you can have it on 1, 2 or 3. Okay, and if once it's on there, it actually stays on the setting that you want it on. At the bottom, it's got some screw holes. It's also got holes where the beaters or the whisks will go into, like so. And they will click in. And you can use it then. Again, I haven't got it plugged in at the moment. How to use it safely then, again, you never use it with wet hands. You don't run it for more than about 10 minutes. It's not got a massive motor on it and it gets warm quite easily. You never have it anywhere near the sink, so in order to wash it, you eject the beaters by pressing that button on the top. You put that bit into the sink. You then give this bit a wipe with a damp cloth, not a soggy cloth, just a damp cloth, okay? So it doesn't get too wet. You wind the cable round when you're storing it, like so that's all kept safe. And obviously you just keep your fingers away from the blades when it's actually moving. So that is the food mixer. Cost-wise, these are in the region of about £25. You can get them an awful lot cheaper. Places like Asda and Sainsbury's make their own version, which start at about £7. At school we have quite a decent one because obviously it gets an awful lot more use. What they're actually used for, food mixers of course, is to make cake mixture, which is what you're going to use yours for, and things like meringues and whipping cream. Whereas the food processor is a lot more versatile. It's fabulous for grating and slicing and crushing nuts and biscuits and mincing and all those sorts of products, and you can get a wider range of blades. So hopefully that gives you an idea of just two of the common pieces of kitchen equipment that you will get on to use at school.